Hello and welcome to Quays Kickabout. Over the course of the next hour, we'll be looking back at the non-league football season and picking out the best from Greater Manchester non-league side. Now, after the Class of 92's takeover in March, a lot was expected of Salford City this season in the Evo Stick Northern First Division, particularly after a 5-1 friendly win over their owners in August. But after multiple player changes and a key change in management, they achieved their goal of promotion. Will Moorcroft reviews how they managed it.
Salford got the season off to a wonderful start against promotion rivals to be Scarborough Athletic with a 4-1 win. The first competitive goal of the season was scored by Sam Madeley, who joined from relegated Droylsden to add a new dimension of flair and pace up front. And it was another of the summer's new recruits, former Bury striker Gareth Sedney, who gained the plaudits by scoring a hat-trick and rounded it off with his classy finish to leave fans wondering just what the season might bring. Another 6 points followed in games at Warrington and Mosley, with Salford maintaining their 100% league start at home to local rivals Droylsden with a 2-1 win. August ended with a 0-0 draw at Congleton Town in the FA Cup preliminary round, forcing a replay which Salford won 6-4 after extra time, with Webber's exquisite free kick standing out. Perhaps one of the most significant signings for Salford was young goalkeeper Jay Lynch, formerly of Bolton Wanderers. After keeping a clean sheet away to Spennymoor on his debut, he kept another against Dorset Albion as Salford went on to win 4-0, with Madeley again amongst the goals. The Ammies progressed through to the FA Cup's second qualifying round after a 2-0 win against Nantwich Town in the Evo Stick Premier Division. Another goal for Seddon, and this determined effort from Webber helps give the Ammies some confidence going into a tough run of fixtures against rivals Darlington and Northwich Victoria. Webber again showed his pedigree at Darlington, scoring the only goal of the game as Salford returned from County Durham with all 3 points, and Madeley added another 3 with this strike to see off Northwich. Their impressive league form came at a cost though, and after Ashton forced a cup replay with a 90th minute goal, Mark Haslam watched the Ammies out a few days later. Another tricky fixture on paper came in the form of Bamber Bridge to start October off, with Salford still sitting pretty at the top of the table. A quick start to the second half allowed Webber a chance to score almost straight from the off, before Madeley found the net for the 4th time in as many games to record a 3-0 win. With fixtures starting to build up, another cup exit followed at Oldham Borough in the Manchester Premier Cup, and a late goal from Seddon was required to pinch points away at Farsley. A Tuesday night clash with Brickhouse appeared to be just another match on the list, until this injury to Jay Lynch, which would keep him sidelined until January, turned out to be a turning point. A 2-0 win was enough to keep up the unbeaten run, now at 11 games, although a third cup exit in as many weeks followed at the hands of Prescott Cables, as teams started to take advantage of Salford's injury-hit squad. Loanee Jake Hibbs, who joined on a 1-month deal from Halifax Town as cover, scored this fantastic goal to salvage a point against Mosley ahead of a midweek trip to Dorset Albion, in which Webber won 3 more points to round off October. The rhyme usually suggests that we remember the month of November, but it was very quickly a month to forget for Salford. A humiliating 6-0 loss at Kendal Town was followed by a 2-1 loss at Clitheroe, before another humiliation came here at the hands of Harrogate. Striker Nathan Cartman, who would go on to win the Golden Boot, scored a hat-trick against the leggy Salford, who had to play 120 minutes before knocking Ashton out of the Dudes and Sport Cup on penalties in midweek. There was some consolation as Madeley kept his cool to finish this chance late in the game, but despite the promising signs early on, there were some rumblings of discontent with Salford's form. Former Ammies midfielder Martin Andrews rejoined the club in November, and after a solid display in the 2-0 win at Lancaster, he scored this late in the first half to rescue a point against informed Warrington Town, who might have left with more had they not rested players for their impressive FA Cup run. 3 points followed against Burscough as Madeley reacted quickest to claim a 1-0 win as Salford finished November in better shape than they started in. A feisty Dewston Sports Cup encounter with Ramsbottom United had everything but season's greetings, as Seddon was sent off shortly after Webber brought Salford back on level terms, and Grant Spencer went on to score a brace to knock the Ammies out of the last cup competition of the season, although as it turned out it wasn't a particularly bad thing. An 11-day break helped Salford prepare for the visit of League footers Padiham, and an explosive start saw the Ammies race into a 4-0 lead after half an hour. Andrews opened the scoring for a Madeley header, and Chadwick produced a lovely turn to beat the keeper before setting up Seddon for the fourth, as Salford went on to win the game 5-1. A point at Northwich followed after a late equaliser for Vicks, and a late Christmas present came from Madeley, who scored a brace to secure a 2-1 win over Radcliffe Borough on Boxing Day.
Nathan Cartman ensured it wouldn't be a very happy new year, as Salford lost 1-0 at Harrogate to end 2014, and a 3-2 loss at Droylsden on New Year's Day ultimately spelled the end for Phil Powell's tenure here. Co-owners Phil Neville and Paul Scholes took charge for the 2-1 win over Kendal, before it was announced that Anthony Johnson and Bernard Morley would take the reins.
So a bit of a strange one, this, Joey. A really encouraging start to the season. Do you think that the sacking of Phil Power on New Year's Day was harsh?
I don't think it's harsh. I think it's a little bit difficult decision for the owners, but that's what happens, isn't it? When you get the takeover, obviously the positive is you've got money, but with money comes expectation, comes attention and a lot of backing. And then, unfortunately for Phil Power, he is a good bloke, he's a good manager. His results come the new year just weren't good enough, I'm afraid.
And they brought in a duo from Ramsbottom, Anthony Johnson, Bernard as well.
John and Byrne, they were a great decision in my opinion. They have experience in that league with Ramsbottom. They know that they can get out of that league. And although it is always upsetting to see one manager go, I think they're in the right hands now.
Just quickly, how important is that experience in get promoted at this level?
Absolutely. At this level, you've got to know what it means. You've got to know how to do it. You're going to have to scrap some games. And that's exactly what Bernard and John will do.
So fantastic. So as we look into the second half of the season, new duo in place. Let's see how they get on. Back to the action.
Johnson and Morley got off to the perfect start as Salford won 2-1 at Bamber Bridge, with Webber and Madeley both scoring early on. The duo's debut at Moor Lane didn't get off to such a good start though, with Salford trailing 2-1 to Farsley at half-time. But to come back in the second half saw Madeley equalise with this diving header at the post. And Ash Dunn blasted in his last goal for the club to secure victory before leaving in search of more regular first-team football.
Potentially 6 points clear down to we've got 5 games in hand. We've just got to keep winning games and hopefully we can improve game by game.
A 3-1 loss at Brickhouse Town only increased the pressure on Salford to beat Darlington at the end of the month, but Webber relieved some of that with a first half goal to silence the large Darlington contingent. The early return of Jay Lynch helped to keep Darlington out as Madeley delivered 3 points after making it 2-0 late in the game, opening up a 3-point gap over the Quakers, who had 5 games in hand.
It puts pressure back onto Darlington. I mean, obviously with the games in hand they can still go 9 points ahead of us, plus the goal difference, which is effectively a point to 10. But it gives us a bit of breathing space. They've got some really, really tough games. They've got to play Northwich twice, Warrington, Harrogate, Droylsden, Clitheroe, Mosley. They've got some really, really tough games.
The improvement under Johnson and Morley was clear to see, and Seddon's early goal against New Mills helped the Ammies on their way to a 100% record in February, albeit over 3 games. 6 goals against Prescott Cables followed as Salford turned up the style, with new recruits Grant Spencer and Jordan Hume scoring their first goals for the club. Hume netted again the following week as the Ammies put 6 past Padiham. With 4 out of 5 matches in March on the road, victory at home against Lancaster seemed essential, but the Dolly Blues extracted revenge for their defeat earlier in the season with a surprise 2-0 win, although not many people will have predicted what was to come for Salford. A 3-0 win at New Mills took them ahead of Darlington at the top, and another 9 points came from Ossett Town, Prescott Cables and promotion rival Scarborough. Despite a slow start to that match, Salford came back to win 3-1, so that by the end of March they were 6 points clear of Darlington.
obviously we knew if we got the result that we'd get a 6 point gap, and I think 6 points with 5 games to go is a massive gap. And if Darlington go and win the games in hand, or whoever else, Northwich and Spenny Muff, fair play to them, there's nothing we can do. We can only affect our games, and we're doing that at the minute. We're picking up the points, and if they go and win their games and win it on goal difference or whatever, then I'll be the first to shake their hands.
A triumphant return to Moor Lane came in the form of a 2-1 win as Seddon scored his 4th in 3, and Webber produced this classy finish to end Spennymoor's automatic promotion hopes. He then tapped this in to set Salford on their way to victory over Clitheroe and scored again at Burscough, a win which put Salford's fate in their own hands going into the final game after Darlington could only draw at Lancaster. Darlington's midweek draw meant Salford won the title on Tuesday night without playing, and with no pressure they romped to victory over Rossett Town. Jason Jarrett scored the opener on his final appearance for the club, and after scoring this header was on for a perfect hat-trick, which unfortunately didn't come, although Salford went on to win 5-0 before lifting the trophy in their final match of the season.
It's fantastic. It's what you work all season towards. It's what we've worked towards since we've been hired to come here. I'm buzzing. I'm absolutely buzzing. Obviously, we already knew on Tuesday night, but to see how today's gone, 1,100 people watching. Apparently, there were more still coming in after that. It's what it's all about. It's what it's all about for this football club. And we'll go away and we'll enjoy it. Fantastic day, yeah.
Yeah, do you know what? I'll be honest with you, I didn't think we could ever win the league. I said it was impossible when we got employed, but I think what me and Anthony have done is accepted what we had and what we had to do, and with the pressure with us as well, we've just chalked every game as it is, and I think it's important that the lads that stayed at Salford when we come in have worked really well with the lads we've brought in, and I think the lads deserve a lot of credit, because it's hard when you to adapt to a management coming in halfway through the season and playing to the previous manager's strengths, and then coming in and me and Anthony saying this is how we want to do things. They deserve a lot of credit for what they've done.
So a dream end to the season for Salford, the management duo delivering the title that they were brought into. And it was a fantastic title race as well. Darlington pushed them all the way. That must make it even sweeter for Salford.
Absolutely. You saw the reaction there on Dom Smalley's video footage. I mean, when it goes down to that close to the end of the season, it is obviously so exciting. When you compare that to the Premier League this year, Chelsea ran away with it. Everyone knew it was happening. But in this, it was just captivating right up till the end.
And in terms of giving Salford that extra edge, taking them that extra yard, what do you think did it?
For me, it's goal scorers. That's what they have. Gareth Seddon, he's one of those players, if he gets 3 chances in a game, you'd back him to score a hat-trick. He's just that clinical in front of goal. Danny Webber, he obviously has the experience, playing for Portsmouth, Leeds, Sheffield. And Sam Madeley as well, the young lad. He, in my opinion, he isn't one of these natural goal scorers, but he's got so much pace and trickery. He can get in behind defences, stand a man up, give him 10 chances, you're going to back him to bag one.
So, with the owners coming in, the class of 92, ambition was the key word. They said that Football League was a realistic target for them. But here's what the Neville brothers had to say following promotion.
Gary, congratulations. Obviously, you've put a lot of work into this. Just how does it feel now?
Well, the lads have put a lot of work into it. We've obviously tried to support them. It's been an up and down season. Not everything's gone our way, but at the end, it's a brilliant day today. A really fantastic day.
You mentioned the lads put a lot of work in, and credit to them, but since the class of 92 have got involved, there has been an improvement. Just how far can this club go?
Well, we're certainly going up one league, but one gone. We said the Football League was our ambition, and we've got 3 to go, but we know it's going to be a long way. But what a start. I mean, first season, you have bad days in football and you have good days, and this is a good one, so we'll enjoy tonight and we'll enjoy the summer, but we're already thinking about next season and planning and how we're going to get better, how we're going to do things better, and how we're going to get better as people who can support the football club and obviously the owners, the players, sorry.
Well, it's a special day. It's a special day because even though we won the league on Tuesday night, it's to get 1,000 people in to watch a Salford City game when there was only probably 150 at the start of the season, and the celebrations, the people, the kids here, the way that the players are enjoying it, and the management. It's just a wonderful day for Salford City, and it's like we just said to the management now. This is the start of what we want to build, a momentum now, where next year we got 1,000 people this year. Can we get to 2,000 next year? We want to keep going forward and keep winning things and keep this spirit that's been generated, because it's definitely the people of Salford now. I think they're getting to understand what this football club's all about.
Now moving on to FC United of Manchester. The Reds came into this season off the back of 4 consecutive playoff disappointments, and after leaving their home of 9 years, Gig Lane, United have moved into a temporary ground share with Staley Bridge, whilst they awaited their own Broadhurst Park stadium to be built. Here's how their season unfolded. Despite being tipped as one of the early favourites for success in the Northern Premier, FC United's season got off to a surprisingly unspectacular start, having to wait 5 games for their first win of the season. The win came against Ramsbottom, fitting the unspectacular goal from Tom Greaves and a cracking header from Chris Lynch, enough to see the Reds over the line. In September, attentions turned to the FA Cup, and Northern First Division side Prescott Cables provided the opposition at FC's temporary Staley Bridge home. A brace from top goal scorer Tom Greaves and another headed goal from Chris Lynch provided safe passage for United. FC were to fall on the wrong side of an FA Cup upset, however, as Trevor Sinclair's Lancaster City sent them crashing out in the next round. This inflicted FC's first home defeat of the season. United's fortunes did improve in the league as they responded with a good home performance against Whitby Town. A goal from Andy Welsh and a greatly received own goal from a Whitby defender were enough to see the Reds through. In the midweek fixture against Skelmersdale United, however, it was a different story, as FC slipped to their second league defeat of the season. Despite Jerome Wright's impressive finish in the first half, FC conceded a late goal to surrender all 3 points. Manager Carl Marginson reflected on his side's slow start to the season.
Because the players that are getting these chances are goal scorers. You know, Michael Norton will score goals, Tom Greaves will score goals. You know, it's just a matter of time before it all clicks into place. It's pleasing. At this level of football, the majority of the time you'll get away with the odd player switching off, but we've been punished twice tonight by that. You know, so it's a great lesson for us as a staff and as the players know that they've got to be switched on for 90 minutes. Otherwise, you can end up with a feeling like we're experiencing at the moment. You know, our supporters have gone away today knowing that there's kind of been a little bit of an injustice, and it's definitely a performance early on in the season that we can now build on to get up there and be challenging where we will be.
Towards the end of October, United's fortunes improved as they benefited from an own goal from Rushall defender Mitchell Tollan, which gifted the Reds their first win in 3 games. Away from the league, FC continued to march on in the FA Trophy. Jerome Wright had been moved to left-back this season, but showed no signs of struggling to adapt as he caught the Paddington defence napping. Substitute Matty Walwyn scored late on to double United's lead and confirm their place in the next round. And as the cold weather closed in, FC served up one of the games of the season. Frickley midfielder Reece Thompson must have thought he'd secure a point for his side when he equalised late on, only for Tom Greaves to clinch the winner with just minutes remaining. And in the FA Trophy against Barwell, FC United served up another cracker. 2 goals in injury time saw the Rebels overturn a 2-1 deficit and secure a tie against conference side Harrogate. The Harrogate game provided a contender for goal of the season as Dean Stott scored an outrageous goal from just inside the opposition half as FC United finished 2014 on a high.
Unbelievable. Now you tell me, boys, was that intentional or not? Yes, I think it was. Genuinely.
He'd come out the keeper.
Yeah, that was superb.
He had plenty of time, he had a good look, and
yeah,
he executed that brilliantly, didn't he?
Superb finish. Yeah. Wasn't expecting that.
5 minutes, just what we...
So a bit of a slow, stuttery start for FC, but they seemed to get into some form and move forwards towards the end of the...
It was a slow start, and it's difficult to say why. Maybe it's that playoff hangover. You know, they've been in there 4 years in a row, not managed to progress to a high division yet. Obviously, that can be in your mindset. It could also be they've had to move to another ground while theirs is being built, so maybe one of those two reasons.
But as they moved on, they seemed to come into form, come into confidence, and what do you think was a big factor in that?
They got quite a few late goals, especially there was one against Frickley when they ended up winning that game. And when you know that you can play up until the 90th minute, you carry on going to the whistle, you never know when you're beaten, and that gives the team a lot of confidence.
And in terms of the way that they played, very attacking, suffered some losses. Michael Norton had a really horrible injury that put him out long term, and then Andy Welsh had been brought in over the summer, departed the club. That must have put a lot of pressure on goalscorer Tom Greaves.
It will have, and it's unfortunate because Norton was playing very well. Andy Welsh, in my opinion, is a very good footballer, just sometimes players just don't click with clubs. But this lad, Tommy Greaves, he's one of those boys that put him in any league, he will score your goals with his head, with his feet, and that's so important at this level.
And, I mean, we've spoken about it with Salford, Sediment mainly, but goal scorers, particularly at this level, they're so valuable, aren't they?
Definitely, because at this level there is a lot of scrappy games, let's face it, it is non-league football. Getting a goal, you might win a couple of games 1-0, games are tight and you need a goal scorer.
So moving into the new year, an FC United moved to another temporary home at Curzon Ashton. As they were looking to build on the momentum from the end of 2014, they were hoping to kick on. Back to the action. 2015 started with a change of scenery for FC United as they moved to a new temporary home at Curzon Ashton, while they waited for their own Broadhurst Park Stadium to be completed. The move seemed to invigorate Carl Marginson's side, who ran out 3-0 winners against Trafford on New Year's Day. Attentions then turned to knockout football, and 3 FA Trophy games in a row saw the Reds take on opposition from higher leagues. Tom Greaves slipped the Chorley defence beautifully to fire FC into the next round and set up a tie with Fylde. Against whom United started like a house on fire. 2 goals from Craig Lingfield and a penalty from Jerome Wright saw FC cruise to a memorable 3-1 victory.
It's Lingfield. Oh, never mind. Jerome to make this 3-0. What a chance. Yes! Jerome scores!
This saw United advance to the quarter-finals and earn a trip to the seaside to face conference team Torquay.
Yeah, well, he certainly touched it, didn't he? So we've rightly got the throw-in. Turning Greg. In the box, Greg.
FC made light of the 2-division gap and pushed Torquay all the way, only to be undone towards the end.
Oh, that's a great ball. He's onside. It's all over this.
Oh, no. Well, he was onside.
The defeat did not put a dampener on things, however, as FC fans and players alike celebrated a superb cup run.
So the final score here from Claymore on a brilliant afternoon for FC United, although they lost.
Back to the league, and FC's charge towards the top of the table was now in full swing. Without a league defeat since November, FC moved up to second in the league with a win over fellow promotion chasers, Ashton United. Further wins against Hales Owen, Grantham and Kings Lynn pushed United to the top of the Northern Premier, and a draw against second place Ilkeston saw them sit 4 points clear at the summit. Bright gave FC the lead from the spot, only for the Reds to be pegged back by 2 Ilkeston goals. But it was Tom Greaves who was to be FC United's hero once more, as he fired late on to salvage a point.
But at times making the defence work can be... Ooh.
Deep into the business end of the season, and the league title seemed FC's to give away, as they further extended their lead at the top with a win against fellow high flyers Workington. On Easter Monday, FC faced their tenants, Curzon Ashton, who themselves were harbouring playoff hopes. Craig Linfield gave United the lead before Curzon pegged them back in the second half. Carl Marginson gave his thoughts on the title running.
League.
Yeah, okay.
You know, got to enjoy that. And they've earned it. They've done it because they, you know, deserve it. So we've just got to make sure that we don't let ourselves down or let anybody else down by taking our foot off the gas. We've got to, you know, go from minute 1 to minute 90, make sure that we're putting the work.
Despite slipping to a first defeat in 5 months away to Skelmersdale United, FC went into the final 3 games of the season knowing that 4 points would crown them champions. 3 of these came against Stamford when United recovered from an early setback to win the game 3-1. This left United needing just a point to all but secure the title against Stour Bridge, although only a win would mathematically claim it on the night. The moment everyone had been waiting for came in the 69th minute when Greg Daniels popped up with a header and sparked wild celebrations.
Just what we needed, that place has gone mental. Greg Daniels sticks in the back of the net.
Yes! FC United won it! They won the championship!
Get in there!
Promotion for FC
Get in there, Reds!
Bits of my body have loosened up after 24 hours in the last 2 minutes.
And so, at the end of so apologies for a few little technical tantrums in that one, but we've got the general gist of it, and it must be a sense of job done for FC, the champions.
Oh, definitely. That second half of the season for FC was fantastic. They started playing at Tameside, they made it a fortress and didn't lose a game there, so well done them.
And you could see, I mean, with FC, it's a strange one. They're a fan-owned club. They've suffered enough heartbreak in the playoffs in their short history, but you could see what it meant to the manager, Carl Marginson, and to the fans as well at the end there.
Absolutely. Well, Carl Marginson is such a big part of that club that he's not just the manager, he's a fan himself as well. And the best bit about FC for me is with it being a fan-owned club, the fans aren't just there to celebrate a victory, they're there to be proud of themselves as well. They've put something into that club and now they're getting something out of it.
And we were both there that night, the atmosphere was colossal, and they'll take that forward into next season, but what else do you think they could take forward into next season?
I'm very positive for FC next season. I don't want to jinx it, but after watching teams, particularly Chorley this year, and Fylde have done the same, teams that go up tend to do quite well in that division, and the potential that FC have is enormous. I mean, they've just built a new ground. They could do very well next year. And it was important for them to go up outright as well, because you mentioned that playoff hiccup. If they got into the playoffs this year, maybe people start to fear it again. You fear it that they're going to choke, don't you? But very happy for FC.
So, FC United have delivered another promotion under Carl Marginson, and our resident FC expert, Ben Hobson, joins us to have a look at some of the tactics and see how they managed it. Ben?
Yep, it's been very fascinating watching the development of this team under Marginson. Now, a huge weapon in FC United's armoury has been their wing play. Marginson has always set his teams to play attacking football, and this season the wingers have been hugely influential. I'd like to single out Jerome Wright in particular. In previous seasons, Wright has been traditionally used as an attacking midfielder or a striker, but this year Marginson has used him as a wing-back, and he's adapted superbly. He's given the side fantastic balance. Here you can see the impact he still has coming forward, using his pace and strength to cause the opposition issues. But he's also really adapted his defensive side of his game. He tracks back brilliantly and is part of a really solid foundation at the back of FC United, of which 3 of their defenders were chosen in the Northern Premier League Team of the Year. With Liam Brownhill and Craig Linfield on the other wing, it gives FC a real threat out wide and provides a really good supply for Players of the Year, Tom Greaves and especially Greg Daniels up top. Marginson also brought in a few new faces towards the middle of the season, which could have affected the rhythm of the team. It actually had the complete opposite effect. Shelton Payne's pace added a dimension out wide, and Roy Fallon, also bought from Trafford, looked really sharp in midfield. The season may be over, but tonight is a huge night in FC United's history. The Reds take on European giants Benfica as they open their brand new stadium. Lewis went for a look around their new home, Broadhurst Park.
It will all be over by Christmas. Those are the words of former Manchester United player Alan Gowling when breakaway club FC United of Manchester first formed in 2005. 10 years on, and not even the most optimistic of FC fans would have predicted that the club would be on the brink of opening its own stadium. But here we are, Broadhurst Park, the new home of FC United of Manchester.
I think this shows what football supporters can actually do when they have a vision of something different and when they come together with a common purpose. I mean, the facility that we're sat in this afternoon is a £6.2 million facility that's been at least 50% financed by the supporters through a £2 million raised community share issue.
The ground is not just for the use of the EvoStick Premier League leaders, it is also a considerable community investment.
We hope it'll have a big impact on the local community. We've got the all-weather pitches out the front of the stadium. They'll be available for community use during the week. We've got grass pitches beyond that where Moston Juniors will be playing their games. So we've got that going on. We've already been speaking to a number of other sporting organisations.
The Rebels fans may be dreaming of promotion, but for them, the dream of a new home is now a reality. Lewis Smith, Quays TV News. So, moving on again and on to Altrincham. Now, Altrincham were tipped for relegation by quite a few at the beginning of the season, so could they beat the drop? Over to Ollie McKenzie, who reviews this one.
After a thrilling playoff win against Hednesford Town, Altrincham booked their place in the conference for the first time in 3 years. After signing Football League talent in Peter Kavanagh and Stephen Gillespie, Alty fans expected more than just survival. However, Lee Sinnott's men were given a baptism of fire in their first home game against Lincoln City, and opened the scoring thanks to a header from Jordan Barrow. Any hope of a Robins comeback was extinguished when a well-worked passing movement was rounded off with a cool finish from Connor Robinson.
Number 16 it was Connor Robinson on the edge of the...
Alty would have reason to celebrate, however, thanks to Damien Reeves bagging his first career goal in the conference with a classy chip shot.
He's put the ball in the back of the net. Reeves has got a consolation goal.
After the disappointment of Lincoln, Altrincham will put on one of their best performances of the season against promoted Bristol Rovers. Damien Reeves was once again on the score sheet with a cheeky knockdown before powering his shot into the bottom left corner. The hosts would extend their lead thanks to a gift from Bristol.
Poor corner there, but still not cleared by the Rovers defence. Shot coming in there from Haven. Reeves, it's in, it's a goal!
The poor corner would lead to a scramble in the box. Reeves' cross was deflected in by Mark McChrystal.
Ball's played back to the substitute Gosling. Gosling plays it in. Oh, and here he comes. It's the substitute. Oh, it's a good cross in, but headed well clear by.
Rovers gave themselves a glimmer of hope late on, though, thanks to a looping header from Lee Mansell.
It's come out of the blue, and it's Lee Mansell who scored. There was a bit of head tennis. Well done, James Lorry. Now hold on to it. You've got Ryan Crowther.
Yet ill discipline would cost the Gas points when Stuart Sinclair was given his marching orders for a clumsy challenge. Local rivals Macclesfield were in town next. Despite the derby being mostly underwhelming, a moment of brilliance in injury time by James Lorry would see the 3 points stay at Moss Lane, and Alty secured their first win against their rival since 1996. Highlights off the field came when the Robins hosted Grimsby Town, with Fleurs playing a major part in the opening half hour. Thanks to the help of goalkeeper Stuart Coburn, though, the game was largely unaffected.
The person who did that's probably got nothing between his ears. If he had got anything between his ears, he might just realise he's hindered his own town.
The action on the field would come after the hour mark. Nathan Arnold hit a perfect knuckleball to give Grimsby the lead and leaving Alty seemingly down and out.
Finding Sean Williams to Richmond ball intended. Arnold's had a shot this time, and Arnold has got a ball in the back of the net. Whether it took a deflection, Simon Richmond trying to fight.
However, an injury time equaliser from Scott Lever sent fans into raptures.
Absolutely fantastic, and the 700 or 800 Grimsby fans.
With Christmas fast approaching, Dover would make the journey to Cheshire to play one of the more thrilling games of Altringham's season. The Whites opened the scoring with a looping shot from Nick Deveditz that caught Coburn off his line. Altrincham would strike 15 minutes from time though, with Ryan Crowther's cross-come shot confusing everyone to find the net.
Absolutely fantastic goal there from Ryan Crowther. Touches by various players. Murphy controlling the ball.
Altrincham would once again go behind though, when Dover broke Alty's defensive line, giving Stephen Payne an opportunity he couldn't miss.
Stephen Payne on the edge of the area, he got a shot away and it's hit.
Yet the Robins just wouldn't die, with Laurie firing from long range to give the Robins a Christmas gift of a vital point.
Fantastic equaliser there from James Laurie from about 22 yards.
So, considering that Altrincham started quite hotly tipped to go down, they must have been really happy with where they were at Christmas and around New Year.
They'll be absolutely ecstatic. Some of the wins they've got will surprise a lot of people. Bristol, Macclesfield, Chester, they're having a great season. I mean, when you beat teams that are above you, that's a massive part of staying out of the bottom three.
And it's something we talked about with FC United. Late goals, they seem to pick up late goals, and those points, that point here and there and that 3 points here, and they really add up, don't they?
Definitely. They've got some resilience that side. You saw 2 late goals there in the highlights from James Laurie. One of them was a win, one of them was a draw. So there's 4 points just there from goals in 90-plus minutes, and that's vital.
They really seem to get into that sort of last 20 minutes of the game and just pick up the intensity and really push forwards.
They do, and in the striker, Damien Reeves, I mean, they've got a proven goal scorer there, so they're another team that never know when they're beaten.
And when you're a team that's tipped for relegation, if you know you've got a player up front that can bag goals, that must be a massive boost.
Definitely, it'll keep the defenders strong, it'll keep the midfielders creative. It's a massive boost, massive.
So, as we moved into 2015, Altrincham in a positive mood, could they keep it up and beat the drop? Back to the action.
Despite 2014 bringing mixed fortunes, Altrincham were put in their best performance of the season against Chester. A goalkeeping error gave Nicky Clee a chance. The range didn't put off the midfielder, who curled a shot into the left corner. Alty would then be 2 up in 20 minutes when a well-worked slide rule left Damien Reeves 1-on-1, with the striker showing great composure in this finish. Chester would then score from a well-struck set piece from John Rooney.
It's a good effort. Oh, it's a great goal. It's a really good goal by John Rooney there. And
Chester's comeback was stunted though when Ibu Toure committed a bad challenge on Nicky Clee. The challenge led to a major altercation with the handbag still out even after the defender was given his marching orders.
And I can't quite see who he's sent off. He's still battling here. I can't say exactly. It was a poor challenge, a sliding challenge, and it's still not finished now as the referee, there's a whole melee going down to our right-hand side there. We've got 9...
The Robins took advantage of the action man with a short corner worked into the box, with Damien Reeves once again on the spot to put Alty 2 goals ahead.
Put away by Damien Reeves. The ball was a short corner by Clee to Crow. They got Clee looking to turn, does well. 2 players in behind. Reeves gets in behind the defence there. Cuts the cross back in.
The Robins weren't done though, and a visionary strike from Nicky Clee would secure their victory against their county rivals.
4 on the day, 2 for Clee and 2 for free kick. Densmore got round the outside, got to the byline, pulled the ball, puts the ball back in.
With survival almost mathematic, Altrincham needed just a draw against Forest Green to guarantee their safety. Yet John Parkin clearly hadn't read the script.
Straight into John Parkin's, right into a throw-in on the left-hand side.
A long throw-in would give Carl Perry an easy tap-in to put Alty level.
What a touch! Can Perry get there? He can! Carl Perry has scored! Nicky Clee with a fantastic throw-in, a long throw. He saw his feet. He certainly couldn't hold on to it.
Would give Carl Perry an easy tap-in to put Alty level.
Here's James Laurie with the shot blocked.
Damien Reeves would then bag a fortunate rebound to put Altrincham ahead. The motion chasers would come back though when Hobson would score from a tricky angle. With Daniel Cole's dismissal ending Forest attack, Alty could celebrate another season of conference football.
Touch was poor, but it's cannoned off him. The clearance is cannoned off him to Marwood, and that's an equaliser for Forest Green Rovers. It looked like John Parkin had got himself.
Good stuff. Brighton, and he has finally with a bit of. Behind you, he has indeed. It's his second yellow.
With summer holiday mood coming early, Altrincham played without pressure to convincingly beat Southport 2-0. Goals from Nicky Clee and a curled set piece from manager's son Jordan Sinnott, completing a high-flying spring for the Robins.
4 Altrincham players on the line on the line of the penalty area. Comes in, it's gone straight in through Jordan Sinnott. And Altrincham 2-0 ahead. 25 minutes gone in the second half. The length of the park again.
Telford going route one at the start of the second half. A ball on the edge of the area, and looked like there was a handball there, but the referee missed it, and Telford on the corner of the area. Shot coming in. That could be dangerous.
With Telford already down, few would have expected such an entertaining game when they came to Moss Lane on the last day. Yet Tony Gray and Adam Farrell would secure some pride for the Shropshire outfit. However, all too good their fans one less goal to celebrate when Nicky Clee struck home a 6-yard thunderbolt.
Heads it back down, comes to Clee, great effort, wonderful goal. That's a really good goal. Fine curling cross from Tom Marshall.
So, they did manage to beat the drop in the end, and there was a performance against Chester that seemed to really kickstart them towards that safety.
It was, and Lee Sinnott changed his tactics that game. They went all-out attack, and that could have been seen as risky, especially when they'd had a good start using their original tactics, but it worked, and well done to them, stayed up.
And I'd like to just point out Jake Moult. His brother Louis at Wrexham is always in the headlines for scoring goals. Jake's somewhat more of an unsung hero, but right at the heart of this team still.
Definitely. You mentioned the goal scorers get the credit, like his brother at Wrexham, but Jake, he's a massive part of this side, and he's kept them going. Absolute anchor man in there.
And I guess if there's something that people do tend to criticise Altrincham for, it's the discipline. Stupid little, red cards, yellow cards that they didn't need to do. They're going to have to cut that out next season if safety, again, is going to be reached.
They will, because if they had been in a relegation scrap, you need to keep your players. You need to keep your best players on the pitch, and when they're getting sent off for silly little things, then it's just got to be cut out.
Now, to the Conference North, and Stockport County are a team that have really had a slide in the last couple of years, falling out of the Football League. As they found themselves in the Conference North, would it be possible for them to get back up? Dan McLaughlin has a look at this.
Inconsistency was a key word for Stockport County's start to the season, as 3 wins and 3 defeats in August saw them settle into mid-table. A 3-2 defeat to local rivals at Staley Bridge epitomised their stuttering start as Stockport found themselves 3-0 down. September was somewhat more fruitful for the Hatters, as they recorded wins against Boston, Worcester and Harrogate Town. Impressive goals from Christian Dennis and Lee Stevenson left County fans hopeful that the side could press on. October provided 3 more wins for the Hatters, but a 4-2 defeat to rivals Chester saw Stockport crash out of the FA Cup in front of a bumper crowd of 4,612. Chester raced to a 2-goal lead at half-time, leaving the Hatters with it all to do. Goals from Dennis and Grant Spencer gave Stockport hope, but their leaky defence ultimately let them down. Chester put them to the sword with goals from McConville, Hughes and Hennigan. A 2-1 win against Brackley saw them return to winning ways. 2 second-half goals from Baker and Spencer saw Stockport gain a much-needed 3 points. Stockport then made it 2 wins on the trot as they dispatched Hensford's Town 3-0 with one of their best performances of the season. Spencer struck again and Baker added to a Milligan penalty to claim the 3 points. December proved to be a miserable month for Stockport as their only win came in the FA Trophy against Northern Premier side Ramsbottom. Spencer's penalty and goals from Gregson and Lazenbury ensured County safe passage to the next round. January was equally frustrating, yielding only 2 wins for County. A 4-2 win against Leamington proved the only high point. Jack Ryan opened the scoring and substitute Chris Sharp made up for an earlier miss to secure the 3 points late on. February saw Stockport's fortunes improve. In one of the games of the season, County avenged their early defeats to rival Staley Bridge with a thrilling 4-3 win at Edgeley Park. Danny Glover's opener was cancelled out to leave the game balanced at 1-1 at half-time. In the second half, Glover gave Stockport the lead again before McKenna equalised for Celtic. Salebridge then took the lead as Allen grabbed his second goal of the game. So still time for the momentum to swing again. Dennis blasted home on the 78th minute and Wolf left it late, grabbing the win for Stockport 3 minutes into added time. The Hatters were brought back down to earth a week later as they fell to a 1-0 defeat to Barrow. March got off to a good start with a 1-0 win at home to Solihull Moors, but a draw at Lowestoft and a loss to Chorley saw all hopes of the playoffs disappear. And so despite winning 2-1 on the last day against Harrogate, Stockport's season felt somewhat underwhelming as they settled for mid-table obscurity.
So, well, another disappointing for Stockport in terms of this season. They must be gutted.
You would be. If you were a Stockport fan, you'd be looking at your team. You're in the Football League, you've slipped down to the Conference North, you've got to be looking to reach playoffs, you'd be wanting to bounce back and get promoted. But there's been no consistency in their performances. And sometimes you've really got to question the character in that squad.
And they've brought in a new manager. In terms of going into next season, I mean, what do they have to do? Where do they start arresting this slide and rebuilding?
Well, Neil Young, like Bernard and Jono did at Salford, he has experience, he's had promotion with Colwyn, so hopefully he can bring that into the squad because this is the club's Stockport. It's a big enough name to be in a higher division than the Conference North.
And FC United in that division next year, just quickly, how much of a massive game and rivalry could that turn into?
I'm looking forward to that, especially at Broadhurst Park.
Shouldn't it? Now that rounds up our coverage of the non-league football here. But as we've done that, let's have a look at some of the best goals of the season as we look at some of the contenders for this year's Goal of the Year. In October, tragedy struck the Salford Eccles area as a community worker, Alan Helling, was brutally murdered by ISIS. As emotion and support poured out across the city, here's how the non-league football community responded. It was another busy weekend in the football calendar, but perhaps the most significant fixture of all was played at AFC Monton, who hosted a team of TV All-Stars in tribute to the late Alan Henning. The event was yet another example of the Salford community coming together to pay respects to Alan and raise money for his wife and family.
The town centre of Eccles itself, I put some posters up last Saturday, and the response then was just incredible. People just want to show support for the family, and particularly for the two children.
The All-Stars triumphed 7-1, but the result paled in insignificance to the true meaning of the fixture.
I'll be honest, it's Manchester, and that's kind of what we do and what we've always done best. It makes me very proud to be from the area. I think we do a lot of these games, and they're all for great causes. They're all for big charities and big causes and big ideas, fighting illness and whatever. And of course, they're all equally important. But it's rare that we come out and we do this kind of thing for something that's so personal.
Despite the good-spirited nature of the event, there was still a poignant moment to acknowledge the loss of Alan.
One of our own from Salford, Alan Herring, was cruelly murdered in such tragic circumstances in the name of faith. But we know that the people involved in that terrible act were not people of faith.
Football's often called the game of the people, and here we have a prime example of a community rallying together to mark the life of a great man. Lewis Smith, Quays TV News. Now, there may have been promotions for Salford City and FC United, but away from the semi-professional game, it was a fantastic year for some of Salford's university football teams. We sent our reporter Nathan Salt to a title decider with Salford University football team, and here's what he thought of the day.
Right, so it's currently 11 AM, a couple of hours till kick-off yet, but I'm with the Salford first team today, and basically they're 90 minutes away from the title. They beat MMU last week. I was there at home. And they travelled to Edge Hill today. Edge Hill are bottom, but we can't take anything for granted. So yeah, I'm going to be heading out on the team coach for them.
Come on then, Sophie!
Right, we're at Edge Hill. Arrived. Going. Played. Big game today, big game today. Let's do it. He loves it. Right, we're at Edge Hill. I don't know how long we've got to kick off now. Wasn't a bad journey. It stopped raining now, so we should be alright. Got a good pitch. But yeah, hopefully we've got a good squad. Let's do it.
But if it gets yeah, because you want to take it on, but that's on the keeper gets a minute. But in the sense of if it goes to 3-4-0 to us, they'll die.
So I'd like to apologise for those sound difficulties in that one. I'm joined by fourth team captain Rhys Chaplin here. Thanks for coming down, Rhys.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So first of all, we'd just like to talk about your trials and how you got into the first team. I heard there was a bit of an interesting story.
Yeah, so with trials, you have the first trial, which you got to pay for. You trial there. If you get through to the final trial, then it's anyone's chance to get through. But the night before the final trial, I got hit with gout, which is quite an old man's disease to get. And then went to the uni doctors. They said to ice it and have a lot of medication. So went to the trial and somehow managed to get on the team. So, don't know, speaks wonders, I guess.
And so the fourth team in particular were jubilant at the end of the season.
Yeah, we had a great season. We won the league and only lost one game. And the one game we lost was because we only had 10 men to field out due to exams and the busy start of the year. But yeah, we won.
And what about the other teams? Not just the fourth team, but there's first, second, thirds as well.
Well, first team had a great season too. They won their league. Seconds come second, and thirds was involved in a relegation battle, so not too good.
And personally yourself, you know, how did you score any goals, any assists, man of the match performances?
Yeah, actually scored quite a good goal. I lobbed the keeper. It was a nice one outside the box, and had a few assists. It was a good season.
And just reflect on your season in general. You know, the team, how they perform.
Oh, the team have been tremendous. It really was a team effort. I know that's quite cliche, but if every player played their part in winning the league, even the subs, like we had armour in every part of the pitch. It was great.
And I believe it was the day after you won the league that you went elsewhere.
Yeah, we went abroad on tour to Spain. That was a great way to celebrate winning the league, and the boys were even more of a bond there.
It must be brilliant to, you know, strengthen throughout the season and then have that brilliant, you know, tour afterwards to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like an incentive. If you win this last game, imagine the celebrations once you've won the league. And I think that was kind of like a driving point for our team, is we played so well all season, and the fact that we were going to push on and then celebrate in Spain, I think we couldn't really ask for more.
And obviously you're 14th captain this year. What does next year hold? Do you want to be re-elected?
Actually, I've gone up to third team. Obviously, they didn't have the best of season, so they brought me in to kind of do a better job. Also, obviously, I won captain of the season, so I think that's why they've gave me such a task. But I'm looking forward to it.
And you'd be happy to bring first team players from any of the teams, even first years, from who are coming in? Yeah,
I've already had a few players saying they already want to play for me, which is great to hear. But that's good.
Thank you, Reece.
So that's almost all we've got time for, but quickly, I mean, for Reece, I think we know what your highlight of the season was, but Ben, if you could pick one moment.
Oh, well, obviously I've been watching FC United all season, and Greg Daniels, that goal that won the league was
And Joey, for you, if you had to pick up one moment?
For me, Jason Jarrett, final day of the season and his last ever game in football.
So that's all we've got time for now. You can join us later at Broadhurst Park for live updates, but until then, we'll see you next season.